Hey y'all, I'm Rylan. Welcome to my channel. I am here today to do the romance reviews slash wrap up for the winter romance hopefuls winter romance TBR video that I filmed and uploaded back in late January or early February. In that video, I talked about 8 or 9 books that I was hoping to read during the winter months, January, February, March, and I had those on a hopefuls list, and my goal was to read all of them and then be able to sit down here in this video and then review them a couple of months later. Unfortunately, I didn't do amazing at reading the books on that list, but that's okay because I am very certain in that video that I mentioned that if I didn't get to all those books, that was totally okay. It was a hopefuls list. I'm not holding myself to TBRs as strictly as I feel like I used to, so I have a couple of reviews for y'all today, but nothing super crazy. I did have 8 books, I believe, on that list. I did only read 4 of the books. I'll mention which books I didn't read really fast, but those aren't the focus of this video. This is focusing on the ones that I did read and reviewing the ones that I read, so it's fine. It's fine. These were all hopefuls. I'm glad that I made it to 50% of them and had really good picks overall. I had all 4 and 5-star reads, so truly can't complain about that. But out of the 8 books that were on that list, there were 4 that I did not get to. So I read half of the books from my winter romance video, my winter romance hopefuls video. So there were 4 books that I did not read. I did not read Archer's Voice. I did not read Mistakes Were Made. Not technically, I have already read this book. This was just going to be a reread now that I owned the physical copy. Didn't get to a reread of that, but that's okay. It will happen eventually. I did not get to Twisted Hate, and I also did not get to Her Shadows, His Secrets. So those are the 4 books that I had on that hopefuls list a couple of months ago that I did not get to, but we can forget about those now because I am essentially now just going to focus on the 4 books that I did finish, and I will be reviewing them for y'all. So if you're looking for some romance recommendations, hopefully you find something in this pile, in this little set that interests you. I have 2 standalones, one's in a companion series though, and then I have a duet for y'all as well. So first up, I read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This is a young adult contemporary book. I have read 4 other books by the author, and all of them were not YA, they were more adult focused. The Chloe Brown series, or the Brown Sisters series, and then I've also read The Princess Trap. That one is an indie release, I believe, but really have enjoyed all the books that I've read from Talia so far. So I was very excited for this book, but I don't read a ton of YA anymore. So I was also kind of nervous. I feel like the people that I follow on Bookstagram and Booktube weren't loving it. I had definitely seen some mixed reviews, but when I went on Goodreads and added it to my shelf and started reading it, it has really, really good reviews overall. So I got really excited for this one. I did have the audiobook for it, and I ended up loving it. I gave this book 5 stars. This is about Bradley and Celine, and they go to the same school, but they're very much rivals. But when they both end up on this academic trip in the woods, like camping and things like that for some special program, they kind of realize that maybe there is some chemistry between them. It's very, very cute. Both of them have a lot of growth in this book in their personal lives with the people around them, and I really, really enjoyed seeing that. Bradley does, I have like the synopsis on my phone because I have already forgotten what the book is about because I did read this one first, and it's been probably 2 months or so since I finished it. But Bradley is a football player. He has OCD. That is very much a big part in the book, and he comes out on top in all of his classes except the ones that he shares with his ex-best friend. So him and Celine are ex-besties, childhood besties, turned enemies, turned academic rivals. And then Celine is not famous on TikTok, but she's definitely popular on TikTok. She is a conspiracy theorist, and everybody loves her on TikTok. And then we kind of like go into the past about like why their friendship didn't end up working out and why Celine felt abandoned by Bradley when it came to late junior high or early high school. But as they begin to connect on the trip again, things start to get worked out. Their communication, you know, grows and they become friends again. And then, yeah, more than friends. So this book was so good. I think that Talia Hibbert has such a talent, I guess, like words are hard, talent for writing. I think she does a great job of mixing in humor with like more serious topics and more, yeah, topics that like I like seeing in books. It was very funny. It was entertaining. I do remember smiling throughout the book, but it also had its parts where I was like, oh, like I kind of want to cry right now. I don't think I did end up crying in this one, but I just had so much fun with it. I was smiling throughout the whole book basically, and I couldn't help but give it 5 stars because of all of that. Plus I love Talia Hibbert, love Chloe Brown, Eve Brown, Danny Brown. Yeah, it's like I went in a little bit of a mixed anticipation for it just because I had seen not amazing reviews, but I should have given Talia Hibbert the benefit of the doubt because chef's kiss, 5 stars. Would recommend this one if you're looking for like a not low stakes but like cutesy young adult contemporary read that is a romance in the end but like isn't totally focused on that throughout the book. It's just a really fun time. I did really enjoy the camping aspects of the book and yeah, would recommend it. It was fun. I need to read more from the author. I know that she has a lot of stuff that is backlisted, that was indie released, that I haven't read yet and definitely do want to get to. Next, I read Vipers and Virtuosos by Sav R. Miller. This was the first book. No, not the first book. This is the second book in the, I don't know if it's just called the Promises and Pomegranates duet, but it is a companion novel to that first book in the series. And I do own this one in hardback. I did not own Talia Hibbert's book. Okay, yeah, so the series is called Monsters and Muses, but this is the second book. It is a companion novel. It follows a main character that is very briefly mentioned at the end of the first book. Apparently, I don't really remember that she was there, but I was told that she's in the last like epilogue or the last chapter of that book. So it follows her. Her name is Riley, and it follows her and Aiden James. Aiden is a rock star, so it is a rock star romance. It's kind of like a, I don't know, revenge romance too, I guess, because they had a really good night hanging out together one time, and then she like ran away and supposedly caused a rumor about him that kind of not ruined his career but definitely changed his life, and she has no idea how that rumor got started, but he doesn't know that she didn't start that rumor because after that night together they never saw each other again until he finds her. And we've definitely got a little bit of a stalking thing going on in this one, but like not, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I will say that I gave this book 4 stars. I did not like it as much as the first book in the series, which is Promises and Pomegranates. I was really struggling with it for the first 60 or 70 pages or so, but once I got the audiobook for it, I did end up flying through it. I didn't get as emotional in this book. I didn't get as attached to the characters, but it was still a fun time. I have really enjoyed reading Sav R. Miller's books. This was the 3rd book that I've read. I've read Promises and Pomegranates, the novella to that book, and then this one. And I do plan to continue going. I have heard that the series just gets better as you continue on. It was definitely an improvement from the first book. Even though I gave the first book 5 stars, there are definitely plot holes in that one and some very confusing parts just in terms of like timeline and background and things like that. And I didn't feel the same way with this book. And even though I struggled with the first 60 or 70 pages, I think that that was mostly just because of the mindset like that I was in at the time of reading the book. I wasn't really feeling like reading physically, so the audiobook very much helped with that. And I think that if it wasn't for the audiobook, I probably would have DNF'd this one or just put it off for a very long time and just taken like a very long time to finish it. So very grateful for the audiobook in this case, but 4 stars from this one. Really enjoyed it. I don't read a ton of rockstar romances, but I had a really good time with this one, and seeing how music played a part like in the overall story, but also how deeply it was like a part of Aiden's life. Plus the fact that like Riley was a fan of Aiden when she was a teenager, that was kind of funny. But like didn't listen to his stuff anymore before they had met, so that was good. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the plot overall. It was good. yeah, and I will definitely be continuing with this series. I don't remember who book 3 is about. I don't know if they're mentioned in books 1 or 2, but hopefully they are. I don't know. Cal, who is the male main character in the first book, is kind of in the second book in a couple of scenes with Riley, so that was really cool to see. I'm a big fan of Cal Anderson and could read all the stories about him. So 4 stars, 2 Vipers, and Virtuosos by Sav R. Miller. This was the second book that I had, that I read from the list that I uploaded a couple months ago. It's fine. And then I have the last 2 books on this list that I had read are from a duet called the Ward Duet. This book is by Shanora Williams, or this duet is by Shanora Williams. It is about Gabby and Marcel, I believe is the main man's name. Yes, Marcel Ward. Gabby and her husband have just moved to South Carolina, I believe. I might be wrong, but she gets a recommendation from her neighbor to hire Mr. Marcel as her landscape designer. He's very popular in the area for the really great work that he does. So she hires them. They immediately have a connection, and Marcel kind of knows that something might not be right with her relationship with her husband. And yeah, they end up having a connection, sparks fly. I will say that this is a potentially very big trigger warning, but it needs to be said, and I'll put like a little bar right here if you don't want to hear what the one trigger warning for this book is. That's like big and like really tends to be a no-go for people, but there is cheating in this book. Yeah, that was really hard to read about, not because she was cheating, but like the situation that led her to do that was just like heartbreaking. Another big trigger warning is abuse. That is on page, rape on page. So those are all in spoiler bars. The spoiler is now over. But yeah, there are some very heavy trigger warnings in this book. And the first book was very, very, very emotional. I gave the first book 5 stars. I don't want to say too much because if I continue talking about the synopsis, I will potentially spoil book 2, but book 2, which is called The Man I Need, is a direct continuation of book 1. So we follow the same characters as their story continues. It does take 2 books for them to get their happily ever after, but it is there. I had a lot of fun with this duet overall. Again, I gave the first book 5 stars. I gave the sequel 4 stars. Had a great time with it, still really enjoyed it, but it wasn't as emotional, I think, for me as the first book, or I wasn't just as invested in the plot as I was in the first book. I wasn't as hooked on it as I had been in the past with this duet. It's not a super long duet. If you like combine the books together, probably about 500 or 600 pages total, but yeah, I thought it was great. This was the first book, or the first, I guess, set of books that I'd read from the author. Apparently, Shanora also writes thrillers, and I have one of the author's thrillers called The Perfect Ruin. Haven't read it, but I do really need to get to it. I was not aware that that was by the same author until I had received the Ward Duet from Dark and Quirky, which is a subscription box that did a trope box that included these 2 books in. So that's how I got to like familiarize myself with the books. That's what made me want to read them. It is an age gap romance. That's what the box was this duet was included in. So there is age gap trope. He's very protective of her, and for a really good reason. I love Marcel. I think he's a great guy. The way that he put so much care into her was just so sweet, especially after all that he'd gone through with his family. I don't know, I just feel like he's a very, very strong male character. Gabby, amazing. A very, very, very strong as well female main character, especially with all that she has gone through in her life. I feel like she went through so much growth as a person and was just such a fighter for what she wanted once she realized like what was wrong, or like what was going on in her relationship that wasn't going to ever get better. So overall, had a great time. 5 stars to the first book, 4 stars to the second book. Those were the last 2 books from that winter hopefuls video that I had read. So yeah, yay. So those are 3 romance reviews that or 4, I guess, kind of 3 romance reviews that I have for y'all. Overall, truly, like, I cannot complain about these books. 2 or 4 stars, 2 or 5 stars. Had a great time overall. I can only hope that my spring hopefuls list goes just as well. I am hoping to read more of those that are on that list by the time it comes for me to film my review videos for them. But if you're looking for some fun romance, maybe one of these books will fit your need. If you're looking for more emotional, if you're looking for a fun romance, Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. If you're looking for something more emotional, probably The Word Duet by Shanora Williams. If you're looking for, I don't know, just a good old time, a bad boy rock star who has a really sweet heart, deep down, I would recommend Vipers and Virtuosos by Sav R. Miller. I wish I'd gotten to the other 4 books on this list and I didn't get to them, but that's okay. I can read them hopefully at some point later in the year. Maybe I'll put them on one of my future romance hopefuls list. I don't know. We'll see what I end up doing, but they are all still books that I do want to get to eventually. I just didn't get to them for this video. But I did have 4 romances for y'all today, 4 romance reviews. Hopefully I did a good job kind of with the synopsis and then the review part of it. If y'all have any more questions about these books for me, feel free to comment down below and let me know. I would love to continue talking about these books with y'all. I do try to keep my reviews more rapid. I will also have the trigger warnings for all of these in the description down below. I need to make sure that I go back and get the right ones for the right book. I don't want to say anything about them specifically just because it has been a while since I've read all of these books and I want to make sure that I have those lists correct. So I'll have the content warnings for these books in the description down below if you want to check them out. But that is all that I have for this review video today. If you have read any of these books, feel free to comment down below and let me know. I would love to hear your personal thoughts on these 4 very fun romances that I read, very emotional romances that I read. But yes, let me know all your thoughts in the description down below. Let me know if you're going to check any of these books out. They're all very much recommended from me. Y'all should pick them up. Had a great time with them overall. So that is for real all that I have for this video. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll see y'all in the next one.